So it's called Navigating the Phases of Sex Addiction Recovery. And so at the top, it has integrity, respect, ethics, and values.
Oh, yeah.
That was a good clip art that we found for so there's a part in here, spirituality replacing character defects, indifference, generosity versus deprivation, diligence versus laziness, sobriety and serenity. What's the difference?
Yeah.
Oh, so you kind of if there's the character defect on one side, you're like, okay, what is the flip side? What is the positive trait you want to literally replace it with something exactly right?
Yeah, so it's not just the change by elimination, it's the change by, okay, we're leaning away from this, but what are we leaning into? What does that look like? And I assume in there's also some exploration about, and what would it look like? What kind of actions can you take, or what kind of changes in your thought, in your own individual process?
Right.
What might that look and feel like as you're leaning into this new character of integrity that you're looking for?
So there's exercises all the way through this. Like this one is called Reclaiming the Self. Who do I want the world to see me as? I'm just looking through these. How can I connect better to others? What's the hardest lesson you've learned? Just questions that people don't even think about. It makes them go back in their memory and really think about who they are, and then what type of person do they want to be, and it helps them get there.
Yeah, I was thinking, if we talk about sex addiction as an intimacy disorder, and it feels you're addressing issues of affairs with relationships and connection with other people, and then feelings that could obviously those are intertwined, and can be difficult for people, and their own pain or trauma that they've experienced. So it sounds like you're trying to address some of those pieces of the intimacy disorder as well, and how do people become the best versions of themselves, maybe the versions that they may have been at their core that's never been realized based on.
Right, because if I'm not vulnerable, especially to my spouse, then I'm not going to be much of a help to her or him or anybody. If I don't really know how to be vulnerable enough to be honest, and
I don't know if you say I even back up. It sounds like what you're doing. If I'm not vulnerable with myself, if there's some self, I don't even know who I am. So you're trying to explore a little bit more of who I am as a person and get to know some of those things that maybe have been shut off for a long time.
But I'm trying to get people in my practice. I'm trying to get people away from this idea of can't act out. I can't act. We had a rabbi once that came to our congregation and spoke, a scholar in residence, and he said this amazing thing called it's I can't versus I don't.
Mm-hmm.
And in other words, instead of saying I can't act out, it's like that negative which builds up a lot of pressure. Instead saying I don't do this anymore. That's not who I am. I'm not that type of person anymore. And so if I get triggered or I get a craving, if I could say that to myself, that might help me avoid that.
Really powerful. I remember in my own therapy, my therapist at one point, sort of early on, saying, well, do you want to keep acting out? And I was like, no, just like, you can if you want to. You don't have to stop. And it was not her saying, keep going with your addiction, but it was very much her saying, this is a choice. And are you going to make a choice? And what I love is that oftentimes, I think addicts, and this is incorrect on their part, but addicts sometimes see the choice as either I do this or I do nothing.
Right.
Mm-hmm. I do this or I don't do this. Mm-hmm. And what you're really leaning into is that, the recovery principle, which, like you said, it's moving beyond being the dry drunk. It's not just I don't. What's the choice is I could do this, or I can lean into recovery. I can lean into integrity. I can lean into my values. I can lean into intimacy. I can lean into what is it like to lean in and choose integrity.
Mm-hmm.
And you're really just laying that out and helping them to sort of clarify what does it look like to embrace those type of character assets.
Exactly. Yeah.